My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 32 years old, and at my mother's birthday dinner, she handed out gift bags to everyone at the table: my sister, my sister's boyfriend who had been around for 4 months, my aunt, my two cousins, and even the neighbor who had dropped off a bottle of wine and stayed for cake. Then my mother looked past me the same way you look past a piece of furniture you've stopped noticing and said, cheerfully, to the room, "I didn't get one for Sarah. She doesn't really need things the way the rest of you do. She's always just fine." My sister laughed first. Not a real laugh, the kind people use when something makes them slightly uncomfortable but they don't want to be the one to say so. Her boyfriend joined in because he didn't know better yet. My aunt nodded like it was a compliment. I sat there, holding a glass of iced tea, and thought, I built the website that paid for this dinner. I designed the product catalog that made your shop profitable enough to afford a birthday party this size. I am listed on your business license. And you just introduced me to your neighbor as the daughter who doesn't need anything. I didn't make a scene. I smiled at nothing in particular and said, "Good to know where I stand." Nobody corrected her. That was the part that stayed with me all the way home. What people who grow up in normal families don't understand is that this kind of thing is never a single incident. It's a sediment. It builds slowly, layer by layer, until you can't even identify exactly when the ground shifted under you. It just did. And you adjusted. And then you adjusted again. And somewhere in all that adjusting, you forgot to ask whether any of it was fair. My mother's name is Carol. She runs a small gift boutique and lifestyle shop in our hometown outside of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place that sells monogrammed candles and linen hand towels and little signs that say things about gratitude and home. It does well enough. It does well, actually, because 5 years ago, when the pandemic nearly closed it, I stepped in. I built the e-commerce platform. I ran the social media. I designed every seasonal catalog, every email campaign, every product photo layout. I set up the inventory management system and the vendor portal. And because my mother needed someone she trusted on the business filings when she applied for a small business grant, she asked me to sign on as a co-owner of the LLC. "Just temporarily," she said. "Just for the paperwork," she said. I didn't think much of it. I loved her. I wanted to help. That's what you do. My sister Jenna is 4 years younger than me and has always been the one who got the soft version of everything. When I was in high school, working weekends at the shop to help cover the slow season, Jenna was in dance recitals that my mother never missed. When I graduated college and came home to help my mother rebuild the shop's customer base after a bad year, Jenna was traveling with friends and being called adventurous and free-spirited. When I landed my first major marketing contract, and tried to tell my mother about it over dinner, she spent most of the meal talking about the trip Jenna was planning. I told myself it wasn't favoritism. I told myself I was just the type of person who didn't need as much. My mother said it enough times that eventually it felt like my own thought. The birthday dinner was the first time she said it in front of other people, and the thing about hearing something out loud in a room full of witnesses is that it stops being something you can quietly swallow and reframe. It just sits there, in the air, in front of everyone, and nobody says a word about it, and the silence tells you more than the sentence did. I drove home to my apartment, sat on my kitchen floor, with my back against the cabinet, and called my best friend Maya. She answered on the second ring, and I told her what happened, and she was quiet for exactly 3 seconds before she said, "Sarah, how many years have you been running that shop behind the scenes without her once introducing you to a single customer as the reason it survived?" I didn't answer, because we both knew. "They don't overlook you by accident," she said. "You have to work pretty hard to overlook someone that consistently." I stayed on my kitchen floor for a long time after we hung up, and I asked myself something I had never let myself ask before. Was I in this family, or was I just available to it? I opened my laptop and started looking at the files I had access to. Not looking for anything specific, just looking, the way you look through a drawer when something feels off and you can't name it yet. I found it 3 folders deep in a shared drive I had set up years ago to manage vendor contracts and quarterly tax documents. A loan agreement, $40,000, approved 6 weeks earlier. The lender was a regional financing company I didn't recognize. The business listed as the borrowing entity was the Mitchell Home and Gift LLC, the LLC that had my name on it. My name was listed as co-owner of the borrowing business. My signature, or something that looked like it, was on the application as a secondary guarantor. I had never signed anything. I had never spoken to this lender. I had never been told any loan was being sought. I read the document 4 times. Then I opened the state business registry and pulled up the LLC filing. Then I opened my email archives from the past 6 months and searched every thread that had anything to do with the shop's finances. The loan funds had been deposited into an account I wasn't on. The account had been opened 3 months prior. The address listed on the new account was my sister Jenna's apartment. I sat with that for a long time. I didn't call my mother. I didn't text Jenna. I did not pick up the phone and demand an explanation at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. There would be crying. There would be confusion. There would be a version of events that cast everything as a misunderstanding, and by the end of it, I would somehow be the one apologizing for making things tense. So, instead, I called Maya back, and I told her what I had found, and she came over in 20 minutes with her laptop and a yellow legal pad, because that's who Maya is, the kind of person who brings structure to the moments you feel like you're falling through the floor. We sat at my kitchen table until 2 in the morning. We pulled every document I had saved access to. We found the vendor invoices. We found the grant records. We found the tax returns where the shop's income was reported under the LLC I was named in, and we found the disbursement records from the new loan account, which showed the first transfer had gone to a credit card in Jenna's name. And then Maya found something I had missed, an email thread from 8 weeks ago between Jenna and the lender's loan officer. In it, Jenna had described herself as the primary operator of the business and described me as a silent co-owner who was aware of and supportive of the loan. I was not aware. I was not supportive. I had not been told. Maya looked at me across the table and said, "Sarah, your name is on everything good about that business. Your work made it look credible enough to qualify for a $40,000 loan. And your name is also now on a debt you didn't agree to. Tell me something. Has anyone ever made you feel so responsible for keeping things running that you didn't even notice the moment it stopped being help and became something else entirely? Have you ever looked at your own life and realized that the people who relied on you the most were also the ones who thought about you the least? I wonder how far that feeling travels. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from tonight. I want to be honest about what happened next, because I think people expect a dramatic breakdown or an impulsive confrontation, and that's not what this was. I was calm. Genuinely calm, the specific kind of calm that comes when you finally stop being confused. When the fog lifts, and all that's left is just the facts, laid out plainly in front of you. The next morning, I contacted a business attorney. I found one who handled small business disputes and LLC liability issues. I explained the situation, sent her the documents, and waited for her response. She called me back by noon. What I had, she said, was serious. Using a co-owner's name on a loan application without their knowledge or consent was not an administrative oversight. It was fraud. I needed to protect myself immediately. She helped me draft a formal notice to the lender, flagging that I had not authorized the loan or signed any application. She helped me file a request to have my name formally removed as co-owner of the LLC through the state business registry. And she advised me to revoke any business access credentials. I controlled the website, the email accounts, the inventory platform, the vendor portal, until the matter was resolved. I did all of it. The shop's website went dark on a Monday afternoon. The vendor portal that suppliers use to submit invoices and check payment status went offline 12 minutes later. The shop's automated email system, through which my mother sent her weekly newsletter to 3,000 subscribers, stopped sending. I did not send a warning. I did not announce what I was doing. I simply stopped holding the infrastructure together, and without it, the infrastructure collapsed. I then sent one email to my mother, to Jenna, and to the small business attorney my mother had used years ago when she first opened the shop. I wrote it professionally, without insults, without accusations spelled out in capital letters. I stated that I had discovered a loan application submitted in the name of the Mitchell Home and Gift LLC that included my name and a parent signature without my knowledge or authorization. I stated that I was pursuing legal advice and had taken steps to protect myself from liability. I stated that all business systems, credentials, and intellectual property connected to my personal accounts were suspended indefinitely. I noted that any future use of my name, my work, or my business assets would be considered unauthorized. I copied the lender. Then I put my phone face down on the counter and went for a walk. The first response came before I had made it 2 blocks. It was from Jenna. "Sarah, what is this? Mom is freaking out. Can you call me?" I kept walking. The second was from my mother. 5 words. "Call me right now. Please." I turned my phone over and put it in my jacket pocket. The third was from the lender's compliance department, acknowledging receipt of my notice and informing me they were pausing the loan disbursement schedule pending a review of the application. I exhaled. When I got home, I had 14 missed calls. 6 from my mother, 4 from Jenna, 2 from a number I didn't recognize, 1 from my aunt, 1 from my mother's friend who had no business being involved. I didn't call any of them back. Instead, I called Maya and told her what had happened, and she said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Honestly, like I finally put something down that I've been carrying so long I forgot it wasn't mine." By Tuesday, the panicking had escalated. My mother's newsletter had missed its Monday send. 3 vendors had gotten error messages when they tried to access the invoice portal. A wholesale supplier who had been expecting a reorder confirmation hadn't received one and had emailed my mother asking if everything was all right. My mother had tried to log into the back end of the website to fix things herself and found that her access had been removed, which it had, because she had never actually had her own credentials. She had always used mine. At 9:47 that morning, my mother called me again. I let it go to voicemail. She said, "I don't understand what you think you're doing, but this is hurting the shop. Real customers, Sarah. Real orders. People are emailing me saying the website is down. You need to fix this today. Not, I'm sorry. Not, we need to talk about what Jenna did. Not even an acknowledgement that anything unusual had happened. Just, fix this today." I played that voicemail twice. And in that small, tight sentence, "This is hurting the shop," I heard the whole truth of how she had always seen me. Not as someone whose feelings or dignity or legal safety mattered. As a function, a system to keep running. A utility she paid for in the currency of just being included. Jenna texted at noon. "Mom says you're being dramatic and you need to stop. You're making everything worse." I stared at the word dramatic and thought about the $40,000 sitting in a loan account I had never agreed to guarantee. I thought about my name on a document I had never signed. I thought about the birthday party where my mother handed gift bags to a stranger and looked past me like I was part of the wallpaper. I wrote back 1 sentence. "I'm being legal." She didn't respond. That afternoon, my attorney confirmed that the lender had flagged the loan for internal review and temporarily suspended further disbursements. She also told me that based on the email chain between Jenna and the loan officer, there was enough to pursue a formal fraud complaint if I chose to. I told her I wanted to wait and see how the family responded before making that decision. She said that was reasonable, but that I should not delay if I started seeing further unauthorized use of my name or business identity. I said I understood. It was my aunt who called that evening and said, without introduction, "You're destroying your mother's business over a misunderstanding. Is that really who you want to be?" I asked her one question. "Did you know Jenna took out a loan in my name without telling me?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said, and ended the call. My mother stopped leaving voicemails after Wednesday and switched to texts. They came in waves, each one slightly different in tone but identical in message. "Fix this. Come home. Stop punishing us. Why are you doing this to the family?" One of them said, "I gave you everything, and this is how you treat me." I read that one several times. I thought about 5 years of weekend work. I thought about the grant application I filled out at midnight in February. I thought about the birthday party where she handed every other person in the room a gift and told them she hoped it made them feel seen. Then they came. It was a Thursday afternoon, 3 days after I sent the email. I was working from home, sitting at my desk with my headphones on, when I heard the knock. Not a polite knock, a knock that said we've been patient long enough and now we're done being patient. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother in her gray wool coat, her face set in the particular expression she only wore when she was certain she was in the right. Behind her was Jenna, arms crossed, and beside Jenna was Derek, her boyfriend, who looked deeply uncomfortable about being there. My aunt was on the step below them, slightly back, wearing an expression that managed to be both apologetic and accusatory at the same time. I did not open the door. My mother knocked again. "Sarah, we know you're home. Your car is outside." I pressed my back against the wall beside the door and said, loudly enough to be heard through it, "I'm not opening the door." "Sarah, this is ridiculous." My mother's voice had that particular edge, the one that meant she was about to start crying, not because she was sad, but because crying had always worked before. "We drove an hour and a half to talk to you. The least you can do is open the door." "You drove an hour and a half," I said. "Because the website is down, and the vendor portal is offline, and the lender froze the loan disbursement. Not because anyone missed me." A pause. Then Jenna's voice, softer. "Sarah, just let us explain." "I've seen the email chain, Jenna," I said. "You told the loan officer I was a silent co-owner who was aware and supportive." "I was not aware. I was not supportive." "What exactly are you going to explain?" Silence outside the door. I kept talking, because for the first time in my adult life, I was not going to let the silence do their work for them. "You used my name on a $40,000 loan application. You opened a separate account and transferred the funds. You did not ask me. You did not tell me. You assumed I would find out eventually, and I would do what I always do, absorb it, and keep going." My mother's voice came back, lower now. "You're being dramatic. It was a business loan for the shop. You're part of the shop." "I am part of the shop," I said. "I built every system that makes it run. But nobody told me about this loan, and my name being on the filing doesn't give anyone the right to sign documents I never agreed to." "Nobody signed your name," Jenna said quickly, and something about the quickness told me everything. "Then how did my name appear as a secondary guarantor on a document I never saw?" No answer. My aunt spoke up from the back. "This has gone far enough. You're going to destroy your mother's reputation over paperwork." I almost laughed. "Her reputation," I said. "Okay. Let's talk about reputation. For 5 years, she has been emailing 3,000 subscribers, a newsletter with her name on it about quality and craftsmanship and the love she puts into every product in that shop. Not one of those emails mentioned who designed the template, wrote the copy, built the platform, and scheduled every single send. My name is nowhere on any of the public-facing success of that business, but it's right there on the loan paperwork. Isn't that interesting?" The silence outside the door was different from the one before. Less impatient, more careful. My mother said quietly, "Open the door, Sarah. Please." "No. We can fix this. We just need to talk." "You've had 5 years to talk to me like I was a person instead of an asset," I said. "You had the birthday party 2 weeks ago, and instead of talking to me, you handed your neighbor a gift bag and told the room, 'I don't need things the way everyone else does.' That is not something you say by accident. That is what you believe." I heard something shift outside movement, the sound of someone turning. Then, Derek's voice, quiet. "I think maybe we should go." Jenna shushed him. "But here's the thing about people like Derek. People who are new to the situation and haven't spent years being trained to accept the family's version of reality as the only one. Sometimes they say the obvious thing. Sometimes they're the only ones who will." My mother tried one more time. "Jenna needs this loan, Sarah. She's been struggling. I was trying to help her." I thought. "You thought I wouldn't find out," I said. "Or you thought if I did, I would handle it the way I handle everything." Quietly. A long pause. "You thought," I said, "that my name was just something you had access to, like the website login, like the vendor portal, like the inventory system. You thought it was just a resource that came with being my family." My mother said nothing. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, and I was surprised by how even my voice was. "The lender is reviewing the application. My attorney is aware of the situation. My name will be removed from the LLC. Any future use of my work, my business accounts, my templates, or my credentials is unauthorized, and I will treat it that way. The website and vendor systems will remain offline until I have written confirmation that my name has been removed from both the loan and the business filing. You can work with your own attorney on next steps from there." Jenna's voice cracked. "Sarah, you're going to destroy Mom's shop." "Jenna," I said, "you already did something that could have destroyed my credit, my business reputation, and my legal standing without asking me once. I'm just finally taking my name back. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then my aunt said, sharply, "This is how you treat family." And I said, without heat, without drama, without any of the shaking that used to come with every confrontation I had ever tried to have with any of these people, "Family doesn't sign documents in your name without telling you. Family doesn't hand gift bags to strangers at a birthday dinner and tell the room you don't need the same things everyone else does. What you're describing when you say family is just the expectation that I'll keep absorbing whatever you need absorbed. And I'm done." I heard my mother make a sound, not quite crying, not quite speaking, something in between. I heard footsteps on the porch steps. And then I heard nothing. I stood in my hallway for a long time after they left, my back against the wall, my forehead tipped up toward the ceiling. Outside, a car started, then another, then quiet. I want to tell you what happened after, because I think that's the part people always wonder about. The part that's supposed to redeem things or destroy them or land somewhere in the middle. The lender completed its internal review and determined that the loan application had irregularities they were not comfortable proceeding with. The loan was formally canceled 2 weeks after I submitted my notice. Jenna had to return the partial disbursement she had already received. The process was not pretty. Neither was my mother's conversation with her small business attorney when she found out. My name was removed from the LLC within 30 days. The state filing was updated. I was no longer a co-owner of the Mitchell Home and Gift Shop in any legal capacity. The shop struggled for a while. Without the vendor portal, supplier relationships had to be rebuilt manually. Without the website, online orders dropped significantly through the holiday season. My mother hired a freelance web designer in January and paid more in a single month than she had paid me in 5 years of running everything myself. My aunt sent me a text in December that said, "Your mother is heartbroken. I hope you're proud of yourself." I read it and didn't respond. My father, who I haven't mentioned because he has been largely absent from this story, the way he has been largely absent from most of it, called me in the first week of the new year. He left a voicemail that lasted 6 minutes. He said he was sorry he hadn't paid closer attention. He said he had known, on some level, that I had been carrying too much for too long, and that it had been easier to let things be than to say anything. He said he wasn't asking me to forgive anything immediately. He said he just didn't want to be someone who never said it at all. I listened to that voicemail 3 times. The third time, I cried a little. Not because it fixed anything it didn't, but because it was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. No agenda behind it, no ask attached to it, just, "I should have been paying attention. I wasn't. I'm sorry." I called him back the following weekend. Jenna texted me in February. She didn't apologize, exactly. She said she had told herself she wasn't doing anything wrong because the LLC was a family business and family was supposed to share. She said she knew, now, that wasn't true. She said she had been trying not to think about what it meant that she had used my name without asking, because thinking about it made her feel like someone she didn't want to be. She said she didn't know if I would ever want to talk to her again, but she didn't want to pretend it hadn't happened. That took something. I know it did. Admitting that you've become someone you don't want to be is not easy, especially when admitting it doesn't come with a guaranteed pardon. I told her I wasn't ready to rebuild anything yet, but I told her that what she had said mattered. That honesty, offered without an exit ramp attached to it, still means something even when it comes late. My mother has not reached out directly. The last message I received from her was a Christmas text that said "Merry Christmas" and nothing else, which might be the most accurate summary of our entire relationship. She is there when it costs her nothing. She is quiet when it costs her something to speak. I spent the holidays with Maya and a group of friends from my professional network in an apartment full of mismatched furniture and a playlist nobody agreed on, and food that nobody made from scratch because we all admitted we just didn't feel like it. It was the most relaxed I had been at any holiday gathering in years. Because when you're with people who actually see you, not the function you serve, not the name on their filing, not the labor that makes their life run more smoothly, you don't have to hold your breath. You don't have to wonder when the other shoe is going to drop. You can just be a person, at a table, and that can be enough. In March, A regional lifestyle brand I had done some freelance campaign work for reached out about a full contract. They had been following the kind of professional trail I'd been building quietly, and they said they needed someone with exactly the combination of skills I had. The contract was the largest I had signed in my career. It had my name on it, only my name, and it was for work that was entirely mine. I signed it on a Tuesday morning with a cup of coffee and no one watching, and I felt something settle in my chest, the way a locked door settles into its frame. Here's what I know now that I didn't know how to say before. There is a particular kind of invisibility that gets handed to the capable people in a family, the ones who figure things out, the ones who don't ask for much. The ones who say I'm fine when they're not because they've learned that saying otherwise just creates more work for them to manage. The family learns to depend on that capability without ever actually seeing the person behind it, and the person learns to shrink themselves into the shape that fits the space they've been given. I mistook that shrinking for maturity for a long time. I thought not needing things was a strength. I thought being available was the same as being loved. It isn't. Being loved means someone notices when you're not in the frame. Being loved means someone hands you a gift at a birthday dinner, not because they owe it to you, but because they thought of you. Being loved means your name is not something other people have access to without asking. The moment I stopped making myself small enough to disappear into the background of my own family's story, everything changed. Not because I became someone else, because I finally stopped pretending I was okay with being no one. So I'll ask you the same thing. I sat on my kitchen floor asking myself the night of that birthday dinner. When the people in your life say they need you, are they talking about you? Or are they talking about everything you do that makes their life easier? There's a difference. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And our team here at Revenge Fire creates fictional stories designed to carry real messages about self-respect, boundaries, and the kind of clarity that only comes when you stop letting other people define your value. Every story we share is meant to remind someone out there that they are allowed to take their name back,